What does it mean to win here, not only once, but to win here 5 times?
Well, it don't mean shit right now. Daddy's done won here 10 times, so I got to do a little more, do more winning, but we're going to get there. And he was the master. I'm just following his tracks.
And he's following it very well, Bill.
And certainly our apologies for his enthusiastic language in victory lane.
In his greatest championship run, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2004 won at Talladega. This would solidify him a ton of points, and he was ready to take the fight to the championship contenders of Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch, and Jimmy Johnson. Unfortunately for Jr., he would make a slip-up in this post-race victory celebration, saying a cuss word, and NASCAR would dock him points and fine him after this. And it would ultimately cost him a shot at a championship when it came down to it. Denny Hamlin is easily one of the most outspoken drivers today in NASCAR. No matter what the topic is, Hamlin is always willing to speak his mind. But in his earlier days in NASCAR in 2013, he once spoke out about the Gen 6 race car. To NASCAR's dismay, they did not like his comments. NASCAR would put the hammer down. They fined Denny Hamlin an amount of money that is not known to the public still to this day. It is widely known that NASCAR did penalize Hamlin in some sort. Most people already know it's a monetary fine. It has never been proven, but it's pretty widely speculated, and the amount is still unknown.
So hard to pass, and you're going to hear it a lot this week that got a lot of work to do to get these cars to pass each other and things like that. Really, it's aerotight is a huge, huge deal, and it's just this tire is so hard and the surface is new. So it'll be interesting once we get to some racetracks that got a little bit more tire wear. But really, you could run a whole race on left side tires, and it's not supposed to be that way. So, and it was a good day. I was happy for that run. We definitely we overachieved today, and that's what you got to do when your car's not all that good.
NASCAR announced an L2 penalty for the 6 car from RFK Racing. NASCAR brought the 12th place finishing Atlanta car to R&D following the race and found an illegal modification to the rear body panel. NASCAR penalized the team and Brad Keselowski 100 driver points, 100 owner points, 10 playoff points, as well as a 4-race suspension for crew chief Matt McCall, along with a $100,000 fine. Josh Sell, an engineer on the 6 car, will serve as crew chief this weekend in Austin.
Done. And look at this. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're looking at Ryan Sieg, and he's currently running 4th, but that's Josh Williams, who was asked, as I told you, to go to the garage for extending the caution. The debris came off his car. He has parked his number 92 at the start finish line, and he's walking to the garage. Look at this. What an exit.
Wave and see you later. And then they parked him, and he said, fine, I'll park it right here in the start-finish line.
So, you got that bear bond, and because it's so cold.
Still today, it baffles me that this even happened. Josh Williams was so fed up with NASCAR that when they decided to penalize him, he said, screw it, I'm going to park my car on the start-finish line under caution and just leave it, get on the car, and I'm done. It was one of the most hilarious things to ever happen at NASCAR at Atlanta, and I don't think anything's ever going to top a driver getting out of his race car and leaving it on their start-finish line. Josh Williams was fined and suspended for 1 race, but it was kind of worth it in my opinion.
Bill, they just told him over the radio that he will have to make a pass-through. He said, for what? They said, you passed below the yellow line. He said, I was trying to avoid the crash. And then his spotter, Bobby Hudson, chimed in and said, I'm sure other cars passed us because we slowed down. We'll have to take a look at the tape.
That's what it looked like to me. Let's take a look at it. But everybody slowed up in front of me. See him on the bottom there. Now, these guys are all slowing down. All Carl Edwards is doing right there is avoiding a wreck. He did not gain any position.
He lost position.
By doing that, he lost 3 positions. I do not understand that one.
They always get the last word, bud. We'll just give them their lap. We'll get the lucky down. Fuck you guys.
I guess that's a little hand signal given the NASCAR official.
Yeah, we will apologize for Kyle.
18 too fast. Actually, not the lap. He gave him the number 1 finger, too, after they got him sitting there, Billy.
Hosting us now. You gotta come in, bud. You gotta come in.
That's Kyle Busch's radio. Remember the little gesture that we had to apologize for? It's going to cost him 2 more laps. NASCAR is going to pull him in.
Said unsportsmanlike conduct. That's freedom of speech. They're going against the constitutional rights of everybody.
Kyle, stop, please! And we all work too hard for this. You're costing us. Bring it to pit road, park it for 2 laps.
So a bad break turned into a bad situation, and it's gone to worse.
They always get the last word.
In 2023, Denny Hamlin would intentionally crash Ross Chastain on one of the closing laps at Phoenix, but unknowingly to NASCAR, they didn't really see it nor care. It wasn't until Denny Hamlin would go on his podcast and say, "I did it on purpose." NASCAR then would dock Denny Hamlin points and fine him $50,000 2 days after the race. This is still one of the most bizarre penalties I've ever seen because it's 2 days after the race. You didn't even call it a penalty during the race, and you penalized him because it was something he said on his podcast. In my opinion, I don't even see how that's fair, but so be it.
I'm about to get passed by everybody behind me who's on fresh tires. I'm about to finish in the mid-teens. And I said, "You're coming with me, buddy."
Really?
I let the wheel go, and I said, "He's coming with me." And so I've said for a while, well, you got to do something to get these guys' attention, whatever, and I've said it, and I think that Ross doesn't like it when I speak his name in the media and when I had this microphone. But I told him, well, I have a microphone, and I'm going to call it like I see it. And until you get a microphone, you can then say whatever you want about me. But the fact is while I'm sitting here talking, I'm going to call things the way I see it. And sometimes I'm going to have to call myself out, which I'm the dumbass who lost just as many spots as he did. But at the time, I said, well, I'm going to finish anyway, and I'm just going to make sure that he finishes right here with me.
All right, well, you heard from Denny, and let's hear from NASCAR Senior VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer, on the Hamlin penalty.
When you look at this one this past weekend, we would have viewed that as a racing incident. But then as 24 hours later, have a competitor that has gone on a podcast, which I will say we're delighted that Denny has a podcast. We think that's great, interacts with the fans. But when you start admitting that you have intentionally done something that would compromise the results of the end of the race, there's no other way to look at that. We're going to get involved in those situations. We've been consistent in the past with that, and we will be consistent going forward. We want them to show their personalities. We want them to settle this. We don't want to be in the middle of it. But this one has gone on for a little while. It went on last year. Felt like maybe we were in a good spot. Looks like it was rearing its head again. And then the comments that were made afterwards put us in a position that we had no choice but to react.
The unique thing about this is that is the gas man. He's allowed to normally be over 3 pit boxes away if he's gassing the car, but look at him. He has no gas can in his hand. They do that for safety. They don't want him holding a 100-pound gas can trying to jump over instantly. So the fact that he was on the ground more than 1 box away was a penalty in this situation. He really didn't even have a role in that pit stop. So that is a costly penalty for the 18, but he did get by the 4 car.
On the racetrack. Okay, we've got a caution on the racetrack. It is our 6th, and the word we're getting from NASCAR. Remember I told you that Brian Scott was called back in for a missing lug nut? Well, it turns out they were wrong. So what they are going to do is slow everybody down and give Scott his position back.
Trying to hold off the field. Johnny Sauter eliminated from the playoffs last week, but he's going to get it done at Talladega today. Johnny Sauter holding off the crowd and winning for the 2nd time at Talladega.
If you force a truck below the line by blocking them there, you could be black flagged. And below the line goes both those trucks.
Johnny Sauter is not going to win the race. It's the 20 of Spencer Boyd.
Last night, in case you haven't seen this incident, let's take another look from the Texas Motor Speedway. That is Ron Hornaday in the white number 33 truck, Kyle Busch in the black number 18. They get into each other, but Jeff, after that racing incident, here's what happened that has NASCAR angry, because this happened under caution.
Yeah, under caution. You see the 18 come up and start running in the back of Ron Hornaday, and we're talking about Kyle Busch, and he's trying to spin him out. He can't get it worked out, and all of a sudden he hooks him in the right rear and turns the 33 into the outside safer barrier.
For you newer NASCAR fans, if you want to know why Kyle Busch, a veteran driver who races pretty clean to this day, gets booed, it was because in his younger years, he had one of the biggest tempers in the NASCAR series entirely, covering Cup, Xfinity, and trucks. Kyle Busch was wrecked on accident by Ron Hornaday and the caution came out. He would let his anger get the best of him as he would intentionally crash Ron Hornaday under caution. This was one of the biggest things to ever happen in NASCAR at the time because Ron Hornaday was competing for a championship. Kyle Busch was not. He was racing for fun in the truck series. One of the biggest and most infamous NASCAR cheating scandals there is when Jeff Gordon was added to the 2013 playoffs after Clint Bowyer intentionally spun out to bring a caution to help his teammate out, Martin Truex Jr. In this exchange, Brian Vickers would also be called down to pit road to give up a position to help Truex gain another point. Ultimately, it worked out in the end until NASCAR found out. They heavily fined Michael Waltrip Racing and penalized Bowyer and Truex in the playoffs.
But that's a getaway. Never a good sign when you look over and a tire's passing you on pit road.
Well, that was a tire that was intended on going on, and there you see the 11 car. Knew it was a brand new tire that had a sticker on it.
Jack Van. Never a good sign when your tire passes you. Too bad. Costly mistake.
Backcraft has to race with him to get by. Oh, Coy gives around he goes.
Round he goes, spinning around, and caution will come out again. And that'll be the 11th caution flag. Watch the 6 and the 20.
Little bit of contact there. A little bit of contact, and around Coy goes.
Well, Jerry, Kevin Harvick's on his way to the garage. He's done for the day, not because he's tired of racing, but because NASCAR said you're not going to race anymore. And here's the reason. Not because he spun Coy Gibbs, but because he said on the radio before it happened, I'm going to go get him. So it was definitely intentional. NASCAR heard it on the radio, and they've said, Kevin, you're done for the day.
All right, so you can't cross the yellow line before the start-finish line.
No way.
Right there. Man.
That's pretty nitpicky there.
That was.
Now, I said before the race, it'll bite somebody.
Right
I
there.
didn't think that it would be Joey Logano, but that's pretty. He wasn't blocking anybody. He wasn't. I don't know.
It's
What
hard.
do you think,
It's
Kev?
hard to tell exactly from that angle if he's on it or below it. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, it's really, really close.
That's pretty nitpicky in my opinion. I don't know. Let's see if they.
But it's also.
I don't think they're going to change their mind. They're not changing their mind.
It's also the easiest call that they can make. If it's not to the start-finish line and you're below the yellow line right there, you got to call it if it's a black and white call like that.
All right, 48's control car here. You got to start. Pace car is off. Ready? Green flag.
Battle for the top spot is absolutely dead even with Jimmy Johnson on the low side. Kurt Busch trying to make that outside groove work. They're still wheel to wheel.
And he's making it work in the outside lane is Kurt Busch as he takes the top spot away from Jimmy Johnson.
Start is under review. Keep digging, man. They're talking about black flag in the 41 car for jumping the start.
Kurt Busch apparently jumped the start.
Post the 41. Pass through.
They're posting the 41 as a pass-through. Is that me? Yes, sir. That's what they just said.
Hey, we jumped the start. How can that be?
41 jumped the initial start, so he's going to have to do a pass-through. The 41, the leader, has got to come down pit lane. He's got a penalty to serve.
You jump start?
Yes, he jumped the start.